accidentally put the wrong channel. Welcome to episode 6. I'm Sam. That's Jake. That's Julian. We just talked about our lineups from last week. Julian made $5. Jake and I didn't do too well with the consensus lineup. We'll move on to this week. Now, guys, this week I'm actually really excited. I think there are some really good names out there, and I think they're for a good price. I think it's not as hard to pick a lineup for this week, in my opinion. I'll start off with quarterback. And the one guy that stands out is Kirk Cousins at $6,000 going up against the Miami Dolphins. I believe he could return this week. We'll have to see. Right now, his status is in doubt. But Kirk Cousins going up against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are the better team, but the Vikings they're a team that you never know when they're going to come out. It could be this game. It could be the next game. For $6,000 for a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's going to have Jefferson, that's my plan to go with a Kirk Cousins Jefferson stack. Probably going to be passing the ball a lot throughout the game. I think that's a really good price at $6,000 for Kirk Cousins. So that's who I'm going to start this week. Other guys you can take a look at: Tom Brady again, $6,300 going against Pittsburgh, who hasn't really had the best. We could go Geno Smith, who has been doing really well at $5,700 against Arizona. Garoppolo, $5,500 going up against that. And be that bad of a play. I'm going cheap at quarterback this week. I know there's going to be that matchup between Allen and Mahomes. That's the chalky one. Everyone wants that, and that's exactly why I'm fading that. It's expensive. It's chalky. A lot of people are going to own that. Give me something that is going to be a bit more low owned, could be as high scoring. I mean, I don't think anything's going to be as high scoring as that game, but give me something a bit lower owned, in my opinion. And that's going to do the trick for you. Joe Burrow, if you want to go high, another good option.
Yeah. I honestly did not have any of the guys that you said written down. I had 3 main guys, and I think you did mention Allen a bit. I think he's just straight up he probably will be the quarterback one, just this matchup. But his price and his high ownership, I don't see myself being able to stack that and work a lineup that I like. So I found myself heading towards a couple other guys. The first one being Kyler Murray. This Seattle defense is Swiss cheese. And I'm really excited about his running ability, especially with, I think, James Conner and Darrell Williams are out. So, Benjamin is the guy, I guess. But that just means that a lot of plays on the goal line, Kyler Murray is going to be keeping it. And he has, Hollywood Brown is a really good option for a stack at only 7.2. And I say only 7.2 because when you're talking about Mahomes and Allen and some of these other popular quarterbacks, it's just going to get really expensive. Even Lamar with Mark Andrews, you're talking about paying up at 2 positions that it's really going to lock up the rest of your lineup. But the last guy, and the guy who I have in my main lineup, is Aaron Rodgers.
I was going to say him too.
6.1K. And what really gets me excited about this is the stack options. Romeo Doubs at 4.8. He's dropped a couple of long passes, but I want to be there when he catches them. I want to be there when he has one of those MVS random 4 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdown games. And then Alan Lazard, a little more expensive, but he's also a good option. And so I really like that game where I think the Jets have won a couple against some bad teams. And especially last week was a gimme against that third string rookie 7th rounder. So I think this game could be an exciting one under the radar.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the guys that I'm targeting, well, you guys said some names that I was going to say, but I think Teddy Bridgewater at 5.5K is someone that's going to have he's easy. First of all, he's easy to stack because they have Waddle, they have Tyreek. You can do either of those. You could put in Gesicki if you want. I probably wouldn't. I'm probably just stacking with one person. And I think for 55K going against Minnesota has a good offense. They pass the ball a lot. They're quick. Their pace is quick. And so I think it's going to be a pretty tight game. Miami actually has a total of 21.25 compared to Minnesota's 24.25. So they expect him to be trailing. And Bridgewater's a very serviceable quarterback. So really at 5.5K, I think that's a really solid pick. And the other, I was going to say Aaron Rodgers that Sam said, and I just want to say I really do like that pick at 6.1K. I think you put him with like Lazard or something like that, whoever you want. I mean, you can pair him with Aaron Jones, I guess. Aaron Jones gets some receptions. They could both hit for sure. And I mean, it's hard to fade Josh Allen. I understand he's so expensive and it's expensive to pair him, but it's just that matchup is such a smash matchup that it's in cash. I think you kind of have to go Josh Allen. It's just too good of a matchup, and he's just too good. But the game that I'm thinking is going to go under the radar is that Minnesota Miami game because it does have a lot of options. I like either quarterback and the Arizona Seattle game. I think everyone's going to be on Buffalo KC, which is fine. But looking at the totals, Arizona's for 26.75, Seattle for 24.25. That's one of the highest totals on the slate. And both teams are very easy to stack with. Kyler with Hollywood, right? You go Geno Smith with either Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf. And I think there are a lot of weapons on each side that you can use. And I think that's a game that I'm actually targeting probably the most out of any of the games.
Yeah, I think I do agree, Julian, where I think with those games and those cheap stack options, I found myself in a lot of lineups just doing a game stack and then shooting my shot on one or two players in that Buffalo, Kansas City, where you almost have a double game stack, like a guy like a Juju, or if you really think that Kelsey is going to be great, you can still have a piece of that game while not being as exposed or as chalky as the rest of the slate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And then you mentioned Kelsey. We'll talk about him later, I'm assuming. But I think you don't have to be too chalky with that Buffalo Kansas City game. You can pick a guy here and there if you want. It might be good to have someone in there in that lineup. Could work out. We'll have to see what happens. But with that in mind, I say let's move to running back. There's a lot of quarterbacks we discussed, and we'll come back to them later for the consensus lineup. Julian, I'll let you start this off at running back. Who you got for this week?
So looking at like the running back slate, I think there are a couple like just screaming values. The two that I come to mind are Kenneth Walker and Ramador. Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson. And I can't fucking pronounce his name.
Ramondre
And
Stevenson.
those two, I mean, 5.4K and 6K is like for guys that are going to get a lot of work because Damian Harris is out, Rashad Penny's out. They're going to be unbelievably chalky for good reason. They're really good plays. I think that if you're going to pay up for me, I think I'm just going to go Saquon Barkley here. Looking at his other range, if you want a high price running back, I don't really want Nick Chubb at 8,200 or McCaffrey, Taylor coming off an injury. There's not much ceiling with Aaron Jones, and I think I just don't really like Dalvin Cook that much. He's fine, but I just don't think he's going to be that good of a play. I'd rather target the passing game. So Saquon Barkley, if I'm going to pay up and if I'm going to go down, it really is Kenneth Walker, Stevenson. And then I think Devin Singletary right there, 5.9K is a fine pick. And then the last guy I'm going is Breece Hall, 5,800. Green Bay run defense just isn't that good. They haven't been good for a long time. And I think that he's really the RB1 there now, getting receptions, getting carries. Even though the offense is bad, it's all about volume when you're a running back. So that's why I'm going those 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, I think you mentioned.
Sam, you are frozen. Can you see him?
I can see you now. Are you good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were sorry. It was like super delayed and like staticky.
Oh, okay. Anyways, continue.
Oh, okay. I don't disagree with anyone that Julian said, and there's still more guys to talk about, and that's what really excites me about the slate. I think even the guys that you said were chalky, like a Ramondre Stevenson at 6K, who on a normal week, I feel like he would be up in that 20-something% owned. But I don't see that this week. I think he's going to be more under the radar than you think at around 10. And so that really excites me out of all those guys. But even getting away from that, I think both the running backs in the Cincinnati-New Orleans game are kind of sneaky. People see those red opposition ranks and just they're going to be not owned for as good as Kamara and Joe Mixon are and as much volume as they get. all they need to do is get in the end zone. Like Joe Mixon is used so much. Alvin Kamara is used so much, especially if Olave's out now. I mean, forget about it. He's their whole offense. And as slow as I think that game could be, I think you could see Kamara finally get into the end zone, as I don't think he has a touchdown this year, and he only had 4 last year. So you might get some touchdown regression of the mean for him. And they're not highly priced. They're not even 7K. And for running backs of their ability, those are a bit get off of the chalk. And then I have a couple real cheap options that I'm not going a ton because there are such good options like Julian said around it. But AJ Dillon at 5.6, I'm waiting for his big game. He's gonna have one. He's gonna get into the end zone eventually. And because he's had such crazy usage for having, I mean, basically he hasn't had a 10-point game since like week 1. He's only at 5.6. And then the other two are ETN, 5K. He had 14 points last week with no touchdowns. If he gets into the end zone, he's a real sneaky play. And then Benjamin, I mentioned it before. If Connor and Darrell Williams, even if Darrell Williams is still in, that Seattle defense is horrible. And I think at 4.6K, he's gonna be one where if James Conner's out, he will be super high owned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Benjamin, I think that's a guy that I'm trying to figure out my lineup a little bit right now, because there's the top 3 guys I really want, or top 4, I should say. Ramador, Stevenson, we talked about him. I love the Alvin Kamara pick, Jake. I do want him in my lineups. I think that could work, especially if Chris Olave is out. Breece Hall at 5,800 is a very solid price. I think, Julian, you talked about him for a little bit. Going up against the Packers, we talked about him before the show started, guys. We love Breece Hall. He's been doing very well. And I think at 5,800, it's a bargain to have him at this point. And then Benjamin, I would like to shy away from him because he's going to be high owned. But at the same time, it could really work out considering that Arizona could run the ball a lot if they're up big. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do right now, but those are the 4 guys I have that I think I would consider rostering on my team this week. And there's a ton of other guys. You mentioned Devin Singletary, AJ Dillon. I like those guys a lot too. Even Kenneth Walker at 5,400. People might want him considering that Rashad Penny's out. We'll have to see. But overall, I think the running back slate there's a lot of guys to choose from. So that's perfect. Let's move on to wide receiver. Now, I talked about doing a Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson stack. I'm debating if I want to do that right now. Looking at the rest of my lineup, it's really tough to do that. I do like the Romeo Dubes pick that you had, Jake, with Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna stick him in my lineup at 4,600. I think that's a really good bargain right there. You can stack him. You don't have to stack him. I'm cool with whatever. I think having him in the lineup, 4,800. He's averaging 11.1 fantasy points per game, getting a ton of deep balls. He should see the end zone against the Jets. That's my goal. I think that can easily happen, and I would happily take him. The other guy I want to talk about real quick, the other guy in my lineup at receiver, at 5,100, it's a guy who hasn't been doing too well. Jake, you talked about him last week, but going up against a Rams defense that hasn't looked the best so far, DJ Moore could be a very good pick at 5,100. You talked about PJ Walker before the episode, how the last time those two played, they connected really well. Also for Carolina, they have a chip on their shoulder. They just lost their head coach. They're going to be coming out with a passion. They're going to want to win that game. It's going to be a statement game, and I think DJ Moore could go off at 5,100.
I mean, I don't hate it. I think 5,100 is just like the perfect price to shoot your shot on a guy, especially a guy with DJ Moore's talent and ability. Like if they just put the ball in his hands, he's so elusive that he can make something happen. I don't think he has quite the ability to break the game or win the week for you, but he could be kind of a sneaky under the radar guy who stumbles his way into 20 points. For me, you talked about it. I liked those the Packers receivers. I think even if you went down with Randall Cobb, I think they all have a shot at hitting like 20 points. I think Rodgers is going to be a really good option this week, throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns. So anyone could be a good option. And then going like I said before, the under the radar picks for that Buffalo KC game are really exciting to me at receiver. I think if Isaiah McKenzie plays at 5K, he's awesome. If he doesn't, Khalil Shakir is even more awesome I think he's at like 3.7 or something. And I played him in everywhere last week, and he hit big for me when he got into the end zone. And I just think with how much passing is going to be in that game, it's really exciting. And then on the other side, Juju, 8 targets in 4 out of the 5 games so far. He hasn't gotten into the end zone. He's a good player. And if he's on the field in this game and it goes up into the 60, 70 over-under range, I think he's going to be one of the guys who ends up in the end zone. He's one of the guys that I'll be calling my shot on the most and just throwing him into my flex I think he's at 5,200. So he's a guy that I really like this week.
Yeah. I think the Romeo Dobbs pick, or however you pronounce his last name, is pretty. I think he's one of the best. I think he's the best wide receiver play on the slate. At 4,800, I think he's gonna, against the Jets defense. I think that Rodgers is a really good play, and I think if you're gonna have Rodgers, I think having Dobbs with him is. It's not a must, but I think you kind of got to go with him. It's just at 4,800. I'm going to have him in a lot of my lineups. I don't think he's going to be super chalky, which is good. And so I think that's my favorite play. But Jalen Waddle against Minnesota is someone that I thought was, if 6,200, a backup quarterback most of the time, you don't want to play wide receivers. But Teddy Bridgewater is a very good back. Like he's a very solid quarterback. He's kind of like a Geno Smith kind of guy. And I think he can definitely have production for both Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And Waddle's such an explosive player. And I just said, I really love this game in general. And so Jalen Waddle for me is a pick that I think is going to go under the radar. And if I'm going to pay up for it, Cooper Kupp at 9.7K is really, really expensive. And he's so freaking good. It's like 25 points from him is like his floor. Like it's pretty unbelievable how well he's been playing. And he's 800 higher than any other receiver. And so for me, I think if I'm going to pay up the two, you can go Kupp. I'm not going to say if you go vomit stack or something, put in Kupp. But I think Justin Jefferson going against Miami, like I said, I love that game. And Tyreek Hill going against Minnesota, that game is just – I'm going to have as you can see, I love that game. I have a lot of it. And so I just think attacking that Miami-Minnesota game on the wide receiver end, whether it's Jefferson or Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, is something that's really important. I think might go a little overlooked because of the KC game. And I think that people are going to really want to be on the Patrick Mahomes stack and the Josh Allen stack.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that game is getting overlooked a little bit. And I think absolutely you should. I think a stack could be good in this game. If you have Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, that's what I'm going with. I'm leaning towards going with Benjamin as my back, even though I really don't want to, because I kind of want to get that Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson stack in. And I also want to get this other player in. I'm going to talk about him in a minute, but I think this Minnesota game going up against Miami could work out very well in both sides. I feeling you could do at 5,900. It's not ideal because Jefferson is going to get more targets. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You guys have anything else you wanted to say on wide receiver before we move on?
Yeah, there's one other guy that I do like, and he's just kind of a floater just because I'm not going to be playing much Brady this week. But Chris Godwin, this Pittsburgh's defense has just been bad this year, and he's super underpriced at 6.1 for how good Chris Godwin is and how much Brady trusts him. And he's a guy who could easily put up 8-9 catches, 2 touchdowns, and just be the guy for your lineup, And I think he's going to go kind of under the radar, even for how low priced he is. And I think I like that play, and I have it as a lot of if I get to my flex and I have that much money, I think Chris Godwin's a smash play.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that, Jake. I kind of overlooked him. I know the Pittsburgh defense has not been the best. We talked about that. I think I talked about that with Tom Brady. If you want to go a Brady Godwin stack again, that didn't work for us last week. Could work again could work this week going up against Pittsburgh. We'll have to see. But at 50, at 6,100, I think that's a great play. I agree with you. Let's move on to the guy that I wanted to talk about as to why I'm going Eno Benjamin at running back. I know I have Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, a pretty expensive stack. And I think I got to go chalky this week and go Travis Kelce at tight end. Going up against Buffalo, it's going to be a shootout. Kelce's been dominating at tight end, averaging 23 fantasy points a week. He should be in the 30s this week. Went off against the Raiders. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm a bit sick. Trying to hold that cough. But anyways, I think Travis Kelce is going to do really well this week. That's kind of a given. You don't expect a guy like Travis Kelce to bust. He's the wide receiver one on that Kansas City team. For 7,800, I think is a really good price. I'm also going to talk about another guy at 4,600 who I'm so sorry, guys. I'm coughing up a storm over here. The suspense. Exactly. I just want the viewers to wait. 4,600, Tyler Higby. Going up against the Panthers defense, who hasn't looked too great this year. They gave up 38 to the Niners. And I think Higby for 4,600 is a solid flex. If you need a budget person to be your flex, he's that guy. There aren't many players better than him at 4,600. I know, Jake, you talked about the Bills receiver. What's his name again?
Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, Khalil Shakir. If McKenzie's out, you could absolutely put Shakir in for 3,700. Maybe go a bit of a higher defense because I'm at the 2,400 defense range right now. But overall, I think Tyler Higby, he's getting targeted a lot, averaging 12.4 fantasy points a game for a $4,600 player. That is very solid.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think this week, like you said, it's really Kelce. It's such a positional advantage to have. It's like Cooper Kupp. It's expensive and it's going to be tough to build your lineup around it. But at the end of the day, you're going to be happy with when he's in there. And I think the same could be said for Mark Andrews. I think at this point you can just expect them to get at like around 20 points, and they have the potential for so much more that these other guys just don't. If you can't figure out how to make that work in your lineup, the two guys I like in the middle, Zach Ertz, 4.9. Again, more about this Seattle-Arizona game, and Zach Ertz is targeted so much. I think last week on the show I said, and this definitely isn't true after Kelce's week this week, but he had the most red zone targets out of any tight end, and he only had like one touchdown. So I think you could see some touchdown regression this week. Again, especially if there are more injuries in that Arizona backfield, they're going to be passing a lot. They're going to have to rely on Zach Ertz in that short to intermediate range, where the running back like James Conner would normally catch the ball. And then another guy, 5.1, George Kittle. He's been blocking so much. He's looked bad. It's just everything says that he shouldn't, but he has the talent and he has the matchup and he has the price. So I'm going to be shooting my shot on George Kittle at 5.1 in a few lineups. And if he hits, it could be huge. It's like the TJ Hawkinson thing where TJ Hawkinson was blocking so much in those first few weeks, and it didn't look like that he was clicking in the offense. And then all of a sudden he got that matchup and it was crazy. And I know there are some other factors in terms of all their receivers and DeAndre Swift being hurt, but I think he does have a connection with Jimmy Garoppolo. And at the end of the day, when he's looking down the field, if George Kittle's there, he's going to pass him the ball. And so you're just waiting for that 1 week where he smashes and puts up a George Kittle-like week.
Yeah, and I want to say, though, on George Kittle's part, the 49ers started to use him a little bit earlier in the game against Carolina before he fumbled. Maybe they'll do it again against Atlanta. Atlanta just traded their linebacker, Deion Jones, so that could be something to watch when covering Kittle. But overall, I think Kittle at 5,100, solid play right there for a guy who has once been the best tight end in football, now all the way down to this. It's a bit of an interesting downfall. You don't see this much in fantasy football. But if the 49ers offense can utilize him, they will.
Yeah, the Kittle thing is like, yeah, you can go Kittle. I really don't like using players on the Niner games because they slow the game down so much when they run the
It's
ball.
literally a Hail Mary. Like
it's like, oh my, they run the ball 40 seconds,
is,
another 5-yard run, 4-yard run, dump off for 7 yards, quick slant to like Debo, and then so the possessions are really, it's a very slow paced game. But Kittle, I mean, I agree with what Sam said. He was getting a lot of work in the beginning, and he's obviously just a really good tight end. I just don't know how much they're going to pass the ball. And so for me, I think Tyler Higby is the guy that you said. I think I'm obviously Higby's a really good play, and he's one of the best plays on the slate for tight end. But for the Kelsey thing, you can go Kelsey. I just don't really want to pay up for Travis Kelsey right now. It's just really, really expensive at 7,800 compared to these other tight ends. I'd rather go a guy like Tyler Higby or Kyle Pitts at 4,200. He's really cheap. He's just really freaking good, and I don't understand how they're not using him. And the rookie wide receiver, I forget his name for Atlanta.
Drake London.
Drake London,
he's questionable. He got injured, so who knows what's up with him. And I understand this Niner defense is really good, but I don't like playing guys against San Francisco. But 4,200 is just like it does. If he gets 7 points, he gets 7 points. It's 4,200, but he could do really well. Who knows? Maybe this is his game. And I think this is kind of gross, but Daniel Bellinger at 3,200 could be someone that if you went really expensive like Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelsey, you could put him in your flex and he would be someone that's super cheap with a relatively high, not a high floor, but he has a floor. And so for a guy with 3,200, you're not going to get ceiling on him, but there is a floor that he could hit. And so if you're going to really do a really expensive stack, I think Bellinger can be someone that you can do it. That's just you can also go up to Mark Andrews, Travis Kelsey, or Jordan.
I was going to say, I saw Bellinger and I considered writing down, but Hayden Hurst at 100 above him at 3.3. He's caught touchdowns in the last 2 games, and especially if T. Higgins is out, that could be nice. You're looking at that game is going to be super low owned just because everyone looks at those, lives and dies by the opposition ranks. I've been looking more into the ownership, and it is so based on that, like so much more than you think. So I do like Hayden Hurst if you have that low price, like you said, Julian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Bellinger solid. Again, I like Hayden Hurst a little bit better. Again, and Hayden Hurst is also in that red going up against New Orleans. I think people are going to be shying away from him, but since he's going to use him, since he might use him a lot, and I think that's, Burrow loves those tight ends. That was something he did in college a lot. Stuck with it at the NFL when he had Uzama last year, and Hurst has been the guy this year, so could work out. But with that in mind, let's move on to the final thing, defense. I'm going – again, low end Panthers going up against a Rams offense that hasn't been doing that well. 2,400. They have that chip on their shoulder. Their defensive coordinator also got fired too. So even more of a chip on their shoulder right there. I think that's a solid thing. Defense is always a crapshoot, so why not just do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were one of the 3 that I wrote down. The other 2, Patriots 2.9. I just always trust the Patriots because, first of all, they run the ball all the time. So like Julian said with the Niners, like the game is going to be so slow and they're priced down. And then you've got the Browns on the other side. Brissett he's not that guy. He is not the quarterback who's going to put 30 on your head. He's the quarterback who always has the potential to throw a pick or 2. And that's just so you want that fumble 6, that pick 6. And I think the Patriots are just in a solid position to do it. And at 2.9, it's fine. And then in my lineup, I have the Rams at 4.1. I think you don't get a lot of defenses that are in smash spots. I think the Rams are in a smash spot. 4.1, you're talking about a team with a new quarterback in the Panthers. I mean, PJ Walker, as much as I say we can be excited about DJ Moore or excited about like some different player in a potentially explosive game, it probably won't happen. The Rams defense is really good. They have a great pass rush. And so I just think that it's not going to miss. Even if they give up 30 points, I think they're going to get 5 or 6 sacks. I think they're going to get a few turnovers. So I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have the money, go high. Why not? I also want to say, I'll bring out my bias a little bit. The 49ers going up against Atlanta, an offense that has been struggling. 3,900 for the Bucks as well, 3,700 for the Niners. One of those could work out as well too.
Yeah,
if you want to go high.
Me, when I choose defense, if I'm really going to choose it, I like defenses with good offenses, because the thing is, if your offense is really good, then they're going to be throwing the ball a lot from behind, and that's when defense really matters. Like that's when you score points. You don't really score points by only giving up like 6 points, and they run the ball a lot, and there aren't many possessions. That's how you get like 7 or 8 points. Like that's fine, but when someone's down and they're passing the ball a lot, that's when sacks happen, fumbles happen, picks happen, all those different things. And so if it's offense is just running the ball the whole entire time, like the Browns, the average isn't that good, but I just worry they're just going to run the ball the entire time with like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and the points are going to be very floor based rather than ceiling based. And so for me, I do like I think the Panthers defense is going to be really good. I think you can go. I mean, there's no reason why you can't go with the Bills defense at 2,700. Like, who knows what's going to happen if they get like a pick or a fumble or something like that. And I think it's really, for me, just what fits less than the picks. And so, but if I were going to do that, I said, if I'm paying down, I want to go Panthers or Bills. And I do like the Rams defense going against Carolina. I think that's a fine pick. And the 49ers defense if I'm going to pay up. So those are really the 4. What it really is what fits. If I can fit in a good defense like the Niners, I'll put them in. But if I can't, I really don't have a problem going with like the Bills defense, even though it's like, oh, they might get -5, but who knows? They could get a pick or something like that. So that's really where I'm at for defense.
Yeah, I mean, I've been leaning towards the bad offensive line on the opposite side, and last week it helped a lot. I think the Cowboys defense I had just about everywhere, and the Pats defense was the other play. So I think, like you said, like the Panthers against that Rams offensive line is just bad. Is at this point.
It's awful.
So Brian Burns could eat.
Yeah.
Brian Burns, Derek Brown, they have a solid defensive line. Just got to put it together a little bit. That's probably the most we've ever talked about a defense on here. But yeah, defense is always a crapshoot. I would say my best tip is just go with whatever your price says. If you have 4,100, get that 4,100 for the Rams. If you have 2,400, go low, go with the Panthers. That's all I'll say. Let's move on to the consensus lineup, as we always do. I think the one guy that we kind of agreed was probably the best option this week, and we'll stack him in this case. This is my pitch. I say we go an Aaron Rodgers, Romeo Doubs stack.
I'm definitely okay with that. I think you guys sounded really excited about that Miami-Minnesota game.
I think we go Miami, Minnesota.
I think Julian talked me into that Waddle, and even if you wanted to go Waddle, Tyreek, and Bridgewater, I'm fine with it.
So we'd rather go with the Dolphins than the Vikings in this.
But the thing is, with when you do you can do a Tyreek and Justin Jefferson in the same lineup because your quarterback is 5,500, right? So you're saving, even though you're spending up on wide receiver, when you're getting a guy it's at 5,500, he's like, there are like 10 quarterbacks that are higher than him. Like that's something that's really good, because usually when you have those elite wide receivers, the quarterback is priced up and you really have to save in other situations. But considering you're saving a quarterback with Teddy Bridgewater, you can put in Bridgewater, Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, and that's fine, and still fit in other pieces around. That's what I say.
Yeah, I think I'm cool with a Bridgewater in either Tyreek or Waddle stack. My only issue with Tyreek is that if you get Jefferson, you're gonna have like no money elsewhere, especially if, and I think we all mentioned Kelsey at tight end. If you want to go Kelsey at 10, you're gonna have to fade that if you want to go with all three of those guys.
Yeah, I say we go. The guy I'm going with is Waddle for that stat. I've said you can do either, but if I would go with the lineup that I'm doing right now is that I'm going to put in is a Waddle instead of Tyreek stack.
I agree with you on that. What did you say, Jake?
I agree.
Yes. So let's go with the Bridgewater and Waddle if I can find him. Waddle, I believe, is there. At.
Awesome.
Yes, I see him. 6,200. There you go. We can talk about Jefferson later. I think do you guys want to put him as a filler, or do you guys want to discuss more about running back?
If I'm betting on this game, I want Justin Jefferson.
You kind of have to have Justin Jefferson.
All right. Okay, we're betting on the game, not the stack. Okay, I see where we're going with this. Okay, yeah, I'm absolutely cool with that. I was gonna agree with you. I like Jefferson in this. Let's go over to running back. You have an average salary of $4,900. You're gonna have to save money somewhere. We want to save money here? A little bit maybe with an Eno Benjamin. I'm kind of hoping we don't have to play him. I'd rather go low at receiver and defense, and maybe flex or something like that.
I mean, we can go.
Maybe we can go with a Kamara, with a Kamara and Brees is what I'm kind of hoping for. If you guys are cool with that, that's my pitch.
My number one running back this week is Ramador Stevenson. I just think he is in a spot to absolutely smash, and this Browns defense has been awful. So if we're gonna go in that range, that's who I like. But again, like Kamara and Brees are very high on my board. So either way.
Gotcha. Julian, what do you think?
I do like Alvin Kamara and I do like Brees Hall, but I think we could think about Kenneth Walker here going against Arizona. I don't know. That's one of the guys that I really like this week. So if I say we go Kenneth Walker, but that's just my opinion.
Tell you. All right. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's put Kamara in, and let's figure. I say we hold on. We leave that second running back spot empty. Play around with the budget a little bit before we go back. We each have different guys on our docket focused on. We could probably come to agreement. But I think right now we could probably move forward and maybe talk about this a little bit later once we get the budget figured out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's go back to receiver. Do you guys still want to put Romeo Doubs in the lineup at 4,800, I believe?
I was going to say flex wide receiver. Again, like you talked about, we don't have a ton of budget to play around with. I like Romeo Doubs and Juju in these spots. I just think that these games could be really high scoring, and I'm not going to reiterate the same points, but I really like both these players. And so if you're going for a tournament lineup, guys like this are the guys that you need. These ceiling players that, maybe Juju does what he's done the whole season and gets 3 catches on 8 targets for 40 yards and it sucks. But I think there is a good shot that he puts 1 or even 2 touchdowns in the end zone, and that really excites me.
I say if we go Dobbs, then we should go with Brees Hall. Just as that like mini game stack if we think Green Bay is going to do well in the Jets Green Bay game. And so I
actually agree with you on that, Julian. I think Brees Hall at 5,800, that's not that much. We could go back to that. I will say though, I think we can go cheaper at receiver, in my opinion, than 5,200, Jake. I just looking at the budget. What we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 with a 1,700 budget. That's kind of rough. And I know we're probably going to want to get Kelsey in there. I mean, you're going to have to go cheap somewhere. I mean, maybe you
want to go Kelsey without Patrick Mahomes. Is that?
I mean, I don't have Kelsey. I don't have Kelsey in my lineup. Like, I don't.
I mean, I think Kelsey's probably Kelsey. I think Kelsey would probably be my pick for the week. If you guys have another idea, we can talk about that.
Jefferson and Kelsey. into a lineup. But I guess you can do it with Bridgewater. I just think we have to put in Breece Hall. I think we should just go cheap at tight end. But
Okay.
Just hit Breece and let's move on. I feel like we need to start getting guys in the lineup because you're looking at 4,000 and getting stressed. So like let's just start adding
let's
guys.
do that. Okay, perfect. So let's just go. Let's go tight end. I think let's do that because I think we can pick a tight end on the cheaper side. I think Hayden Hurst at where we're at right now would be the best play going up against New Orleans. They're number 3 in the opponent rank, so people are gonna probably fade him. But that doesn't mean that Joe Burrow is not going to target Hayden Hurst. I think at 3,300, or that's Cameron Brate, excuse me.
I don't think you need to go this cheap. I feel like you're really stressing out. But if we pick like the Panthers,
I think we go higher.
I think we should go if we're gonna go low. I like Bellinger
or Zach Ertz would be my pick.
All right, so I would go in that case. I would go Higby. I think Higby could be a smash play right there. I think they're probably going to pass the ball more in that game than the Arizona game, just because I think Arizona is going to win a lot bigger than by a larger margin than the Rams, in my opinion.
You think so?
I think Carolina's got a chip on their shoulder. That's all they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. That's all I'll say.
I mean, what does that even mean? That like they got
I don't understand that. Like when a team gets their head coach fired and their starting quarterback injured, they don't just like get a chip on their shoulder. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, it's not like they're gonna get better from it, but at the same time, it's like you've been seeing this in college a lot. I feel like where some coaches are getting fired. Georgia Tech, let's look at them. Fire their coach, they win their next 2 games, including a ranked win. I believe Wisconsin won after they fired their coach, if I'm not mistaken.
But this is like not. It doesn't have anything to do with what DJ Moore is going to do. I mean, it doesn't apply. First of all, one's college, one NFL, and like the head coach getting fired and losing his starting quarterback is not like, oh man, we really got to play DJ Moore now, like because these other 2 head coaches in college did well. I think we can play DJ Moore, but I don't think we should play him because the Panthers have a chip on their shoulder. I think we actually have a good reason to play him. Besides that,
I guess. I mean, I think. Where were we? We were talking about tight end. We keep going back and forth. I feel like with like where we are. So do you guys? Let's just focus up on an area. I think Higby. What do you guys think? Do you guys want Higby or Ertz? I think I like either of those 2.
I prefer.
If you guys have a preference, then
let's go Ertz. Higby's gonna be super high owned, and I think Ertz is a good play.
All right, perfect. We'll go Zach Ertz there. And then I'm thinking we go cheap at D. If you're gonna hit 2,400, you're gonna have about 4.8 left. If that's your cheapest defense.
Let's just go with the flex and then see what fits at defense. Or do you want to go with the defense and see what fits it?
Well, we have to go defense first, or we're gonna have to switch the lineup up because then we only have 4,800. So it just gives you that number right there.
Let's just look at our options.
Yes. So Corey Davis. If I scroll down, you could go with I think a George Pickens could be solid. Going up against Tampa. They're going to be playing from behind. He's been getting a bit more involved in the offense recently. He could work out. Tyler Higby, I flexed him in my league at 4,600. Eno Benjamin, again, he's going to be chalky. I wouldn't necessarily play him as a flex.
I think
he could work out. Pickens is fine. You guys cool with that?
Yeah, I think Pickens, a guy like Marvin Jones. I don't know if you talked about him at all.
I did not talk about him.
But he had 20 points last week in a game where they didn't score a touchdown. Like their offense didn't score a touchdown. That's how bad they were. So again, if Christian Kirk continues to look not so great as he has in the last few weeks, and Zay Jones was a little banged up, he would probably be my pick. I think you could shoot your shot on Jerich McKinnon being really involved just because Buffalo does play that shell defense. So they're going to have the underneath pass. So if he gets in the game, he could get some catches and potentially get in the end zone because he is used so much right on the goal line. But I mean, yeah, George Pickens, any of that. I mean, we're talking about guys at 4,000, so it's not going to be like anything crazy.
Yeah, I'd still lean Pickens in this case. Indy's D has, I mean, it's the number 1 ranked D for the against wide receivers. So I think I'm still going with George Pickens in this. I think that's a bit of a safer option.
I think now that I'm looking at it, I just pulled it up on my phone. MVS, we still don't have any piece of that KC Buffalo game. He had 8 targets this week for 6 catches and 90 yards. He's on the field constantly. And his thing is those blow up deep games. And I know obviously he's on a different team, but I just think his ceiling is so much higher than George Pickens going up against that Tampa defense, and where Tampa has shown that they are willing to just stuff it down your throat if they are winning a game. Fournette could get 25 carries. Like, and George Pickens is the 3rd receiver, as much as you like, just in terms of snap counts, as much as you want to say that he looks better than Claypool and all that. I think he's not as exciting as some of these other guys in a tournament lineup.
Yeah, I think MBS is. I mean, he did well. MBS had a lot of targets. The thing with KC is like, it's a new receiver every week, so you kind of it's a shot in the dark. It's like Kelsey's gonna get it, but who knows? But it could be like MBS or it could be Juju or Sky Moore, whomever. It's just tough. But I think Valdez-Scantling, the ceiling is there. I think that's a fine pick.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Julian. I just think that, I mean, when you're looking at Juju and MVS have no touchdowns so far. And so I think that they're definitely not going to end the season with no touchdowns. So whether that comes in like here and there, 1 touchdown, or maybe one of these guys blows up, and I'm going to have a decent amount of coverage from both of them where I'm going to get hit by if one of them blows up. So that's where I'm kind of at with that.
All right.
Yeah, I think MVS, I really like that upside right there. I put him in the lineup if you guys are cool with that. Yeah, I like that. I like the upside a lot. I completely agree with you, Jake. Yeah. So this is where we're at right now. We have $300 left. Do we want to bump up a defense? Do we want to bump up any of these other guys right here? Could go from Dupes to someone else. You could go from Hall to someone else. I'm honestly fine with this. I know we have 300 left, but I don't really see myself using that 300 elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see.
I think the only thing
we could go Joe Mixon instead of Kamara, but I don't know if he has one.
I kind of like Kamara in this scenario.
I mean, I said I like both of them. I really do. I'm fine either way. I think Joe Mixon, I think is much more likely to get into the end zone.
Yeah.
But Kamara has that probably 3 or 4 catch floor, which is always.
He also has. If Olave is out, I think you have to go Kamara. In my opinion, he's going to get a lot more receptions.
Yeah.
But, anyways, all right. Is everyone cool with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, to recap, we are going with a Teddy Bridgewater, Jalen Waddle stack, Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall, Jefferson to complement that low game stack there. Game stack with the Jets and the Packers as well with Romeo Dubes. Zach Ertz, I get a little of that Chiefs bill since we got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and keeping it cheap on the defense with the Carolina Panthers. Jake, I'll send that over to you. Before we go, everyone, do you guys want to share your individual lineup for this week, and then we can head on out of here?
Yeah, so for me, I haven't gotten it all sorted out, but I know I'm gonna go Bridgewater, Waddle, Jefferson, and I want to fit in Breece Hall and Romeo Dubes as kind of that secondary stack. And I'm thinking of putting in like Stevenson or Higby as my tight end. I think those are what I'm messing around with, and I still have to decide on that flex defense kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm going a big Jets Packers stack. Rodgers with Dubes, Lazard, and then Garrett Wilson was the guy that I ran it back with the Jets. I think Breece Hall's fine. I just had other running backs that I kind of liked in a different price range. And Garrett Wilson, I know he looked kind of out of the offense last week, but you have to remember how much they were winning by and that they only threw the ball like 20 times. I mean, they were feeding Breece Hall, and Michael Carter even had 2 touchdowns and like 10 rushes. And then for my running backs, I have Kamara and Stevenson. I think Kamara is a solid, I think he's going to be a 20-point play. And I don't know how much more you're getting, but I think, and then Stevenson, he's going to get crazy touches against a bad Cleveland defense. At tight end, Zach Ertz, 4,900. I think that, again, I'm just playing guys against bad defenses and just trusting that the talent will overcome. And then Chris Godwin against Pittsburgh, it's going to be Tampa Bay is going to win that game by a lot. And then defense, I don't know. Rams against Carolina, I think you can trust them for 8 to 10 points.
Yeah, for my team this week, I'm going with Kirk Cousins, stacking him with Justin Jefferson. I think that could come in very big, and what could be a high offensive game. I know it's a bit expensive, bit risky, but we're gonna do it. Breece Hall, we talked about him a lot already. I don't need to talk about him too much more. Benjamin, I would honestly advise going against Benjamin. I'm only using him because he's the best cheap option at running back. Better options. If you can avoid using Benjamin, I would. Elsewhere, we're going to have DJ Moore at wide receiver, 5,100. Romeo Dubes, Travis Kelce at tight end, going big with that. I think I get a little of that Chiefs Bills action. Travis Kelce probably will have the most points on the Kansas City Chiefs, so why not do that? Tyler Higby as a going up against Carolina Panthers D to finish it off. Guys, that is going to do it all for week 6 of the DFS Dudes. We got to bring us some money this week. I feel like we've been a bit of a cold streak recently with the consensus lineup.
Yeah. It was all Julius
go through
last week. He wasn't here. He would have set us straight.
You guys should have done Geno
Julian
Smith. That would have been the play, man. All right.
Yeah, I mean, Julian, you set us straight week 4. We didn't take that advice, and we've just been down since then. So, anyways, that is going to do the episode. Jake, take it away.
There are many things a man can do with his time, and this is better than those things. Thanks, guys.
See you guys. See you next week.